Hare Krishna. My name is Lavangalatika. I'm reading Bhagavad-gita again. Bhagavad-gita as it is, translated and comments by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are still in the introduction that will help us in our approach to the Bhagavad-gita. The other time, we finished at saying we want to remember Krishna at the time of death, because that is what we want to remember Krishna at the time when we are also living, but especially at the time of death, because that will bring us to the next destination. How is this possible? The Acharyas give the following example. If a married woman is attracted to another man, or if a man has an attachment for a woman other than his wife, then the attachment is to be considered very strong. One with such an attachment is always thinking of the loved one. The wife who is thinking of her lover is always thinking of meeting him, even while she is carrying out her household chores. In fact, she carries out her household work even more carefully, so that her husband will not suspect her attachment. Similarly, we should always remember the Supreme Lover, Hare Krsna, and at the same time perform our material duties very nicely. A strong sense of love is required here. If we have a strong sense of love for the Supreme Lord, then we can discharge our duty and at the same time remember Him. But we have to develop that sense of love. Yes. So, Bhakti Yoga, spiritual life, it is not a dry process. It is not just some academic learning or some rituals. We are speaking here about the core, our heart, our love for God. And as natural as it is, it can also feel rather distant, because we are presently situated in this material world where it is quite possible to be forever distracted and never give another thought to God. So here we hear, how do we practice this? It's not that it is just something we have to do because we want to be very big and strong. Like if you want to be a sports person and you want to go into one of the championships, you have to be better than everyone else, and you have to put all your time and all your effort into it. And some people can do it and some cannot do it. But love for God is a natural propensity. It is something we already carry inside, but we have chosen to forget it and to focus on other things. So this example is very kind of unexpected. We're speaking about the wife who's doing her household duties even better because she has some attachment to somebody else. So in this world, a devotee of the Lord can be very good at their material duties, but within their heart they're always thinking, how can I serve Krishna? How can I think of Krishna? And so this is not a principle. This is reality. If we want to always think of Krishna, if we love Him, it is not a problem. Whenever there is love, like if you have, I don't have little children, I have very big children, but I remember when they were little children. And every little thing, you see their little shoes, or you go to some shop and you see some little thing and you naturally think of them. You don't have to practice a structured way of thinking of them. Also this falling in love business, it is not that you have to sit and practice thinking about that person or that person's name and so on. It is a natural thing. If there is love, you will naturally think of that person. With Krishna, we may need to practice a little bit before we come back to that position. But it is a natural position that is a natural part of us. Arjuna, for instance, was always thinking of Krishna. He was the constant companion of Krishna, and at the same time he was a warrior. Krishna did not advise him to give up fighting and go to the forest to meditate. When Lord Krishna delineates the yoga system to Arjuna, Arjuna says that the practice of this system is not possible for him. Arjuna vacha, yoyang yogas tvaya prokta sangyena madhusudana, etasyahang napashyami kanchalat sthitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable for me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Bhagavad-gita 6.33. Because that is the mechanical yoga system. You practice sitting postures, breathing exercises, and so on, to calm the mind down. And to Arjuna that sounded very impractical, because the mind is restless and unsteady. Even, Arjuna continues, it seems harder to control than to control the wind. We cannot control the wind. And also, somebody who is not a yogi, they cannot control the mind. But the Lord says, Yogi nama api sarvesham madgatena antaratmana shradhavan bhadyate yomang isame yuktatamo mataha. Of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita 6.47. So when it's Krishna's opinion, that means something. Krishna's opinion is usually right. So yoga, the mechanical yoga, where you control the mind and senses by exercises like that, it leads to the point of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is when that yoga is perfected in its natural sense, when we have reached the point where we are drawn naturally and lovingly towards Krishna. And then it is not difficult anymore. We see that in school, the young girls, they are writing some boy's name all over the book. They don't have to practice to do that, because there is an attraction and an attachment already forming. And that original propensity for that loving attachment is between us, the soul, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one who thinks of the Supreme Lord always is the greatest yogi, the supermost jnani, and the greatest devotee at the same time. So these are different yoga systems. Mystical or meditative yoga, jnana yoga, they are considered yogis. Jnanis are those who approach the Supreme and strive for realizing the Brahman by studying the Vedas and practicing according to that path. And of course the devotee is the person who either naturally loves Krishna or practices Bhakti Yoga with the aim of loving Krishna. Krishna says the Bhakti yogi is the greatest of them all, because the other processes are steps on the way to that full realization. It is a partial realization. The Lord further tells Arjuna that as a Kshatriya he cannot give up his fighting, but if Arjuna fights remembering Krishna, then he will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. But one must be completely surrendered in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So anything important takes a little endeavor and a little focus and, a commitment. So if you want to be very good in your specific field, we see that nowadays you have competitions in the strangest fields. You have cooking competitions, sport competitions, math competitions, and the person who wins is that person who is actually able to put his focus fully, her focus fully on that path, on that practice. So with Bhakti Yoga also, it is a very natural thing. It is process is considered actually to be a simple process, because it's not complicated as such, but it does demand our focus. It does demand our dedication. So therefore, Krishna is giving these instructions so that we can first of all, understand the process, and also maybe understand that it's worth it. We work not with our body actually, but with our mind and intelligence. So if the intelligence and the mind are always engaged in the thought of the Supreme Lord, naturally the senses are also engaged in His service. Superficially at least, the activities of the senses remain the same, but the consciousness is changed. The Bhagavad-gita teaches one how to absorb the mind and intelligence in the thought of the Lord. Such absorption will enable one to transfer himself to the kingdom of the Lord. If the mind is engaged in Krishna's service, then the senses are automatically engaged in His service. This is the art, and this is also the secret of Bhagavad-gita. Total absorption in the thought of Krishna. Yes, so we cannot force this. It will become a very frustrating experiencing trying to force this. But we can cultivate our Krishna consciousness. Just like if you have a little plant, it starts with a seed, and you water it, and you make sure it has not too little sun, not too much sun, that nothing tramples over it, that it has enough nourishment, then it will grow in a natural way. So that is what we want to do with our Krishna consciousness. Of course, first we have to hear about it. We read Bhagavad-gita. There are also many other, Srimad Bhagavatam, many literatures concerning Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So we get to hear a little bit about it, and that encourages us. It makes us see that this is something valid and valuable, and we want to practice it. And the secret is to reach that point of total absorption, and it cannot be done artificially. It can only come when we do develop a certain taste, when we do find some satisfaction in hearing about Krishna, in serving Krishna. And Prabhupada gives that example. It's just like if you have a jar of honey. You can describe this honey. It is so sweet, it is so nourishing, it is so lovely. But those words remain just words until you actually open the jar and you taste the honey, and then you can see, yes, it is very sweet. So with Krishna consciousness also, the scriptures are describing it. Prabhupada is describing Krishna consciousness so that we gain a little bit of a curiosity. The word faith is actually used, Shraddha. It means that we believe it. At least we believe it enough to try it, to taste it. If somebody tells us the honey is sweet and we trust them a little bit, we will taste it, and then we know what honey is like. And with Krishna consciousness also, we hear about it, and then we can see that this is worth the effort. And we see people who practice religion, and if we see them through this materialistic lens of what are these people doing, they are being naive, or they are being fanatic, or they are being dangerous, then we will not be very attracted to that lifestyle. But Bhagavad-gita gives a very practical understanding of what spiritual life is, how to do it, and why to do it. And we hear these things, and we want to try it. Modern man has struggled very hard to reach the moon, but he has not tried very hard to elevate himself spiritually. If one has 50 years of life ahead of him, he should engage that brief time in cultivating this practice of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This practice is the devotional process. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam pada sevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atma nivedanam. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. These 9 processes, of which the easiest is Shravanam, hearing the Bhagavad-gita from the realized person, will turn one to the thought of the Supreme Being. This will lead to remembering the Supreme Lord and will enable one, upon leaving the body, to attain a spiritual body which is just fit for association with the Supreme Lord. So these are some rather powerful promises. We can start this process, we can start in the easy end, we can develop some taste, and by doing that we will be able to absorb ourselves more strongly in this process, and we can actually go back home to Godhead in a spiritual body that is just suitable for that association, for that life. So certainly this is a very generous invitation from Krishna, and in this time, in this age, the way we focus on the Shravanam Kirtanam is connected to the meditation on the holy name of the Lord, because that is the process that at this time is both easy, simple enough for us to do with our limited time and within this very materialistic atmosphere, and it is also powerful enough that we can actually reach the full realization of ourselves in connection with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm reading this Bhagavad-gita and I'm trying to practice this myself, and I'm extending Krishna's invitation to you also, that this is a process, it is worth your time, it will have an uplifting spiritual effect on your life. So please try to practice Bhakti Yoga in your life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalang